the very notion of creation of these anti-corruption bodies was specifically to pave the way for Ukraine to join European Union as a very necessary step to fight with the corruption. And if this law gives a kind of a big amount of power allocated in the hands of the general prosecutor, which can overrule the decisions of these anti-corruption bodies, anti-corruption agencies, then it is a quite, it's not the right decision. It's absolutely not the right decision. So people are disappointed.
We've not yet heard what, if anything, has come of them. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky faces problems at home. Large protests in Kyiv over his crackdown on anti-corruption watchdogs. They've been brought under the control of the prosecutor general, who answers to the president. It's the first significant show of public dissent since Russia's full invasion. Kateryna Malofieieva is a journalist who's been on the scene at those demonstrations.
We didn't expect that there would be such a big number of people who showed up yesterday at the location near the presidential office. We expected there will be roughly 100, maybe 200 protesters, activists, but I was absolutely surprised and overwhelmed by the atmosphere at the location, because I mainly saw young people from the age 18 to 25 who wrote the different slogans on the carton papers, and they were all gathering specifically to protest against this law. The atmosphere was calm. There was no tension in the air. They were shouting the words of the Ukrainian anthem. They were shouting that they are against the law and that they don't want to return to times of Viktor Yanukovych, the Yanukovych regime. The Ukrainian president that was ousted in 2014, right at the peak of the revolution of dignity.
So are people surprised that Volodymyr Zelensky has overseen this change in the law, which basically brings the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialised Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office effectively under his control, answering to the president?
It's a difficult question, because in terms of the surprise, the situation was that in the past 3.5 years, since Russia invaded Ukraine, we've been living under the martial law, and this was indeed quite a massive protest. So the people tried to kind of avoid talking about internal problems, because there is in the face of much harder, much more scary enemy, such as our neighboring country, Russian Federation. So, but of course, as a guarantor of power, as a guarantor of people, so Ukrainian people definitely expected different attitudes, different behavior from the Ukrainian leadership. First and foremost, the proper communication, because the very vote by the Ukrainian Parliament, Verkhovna Rada, happened very unexpectedly right after the searches in the anti-corruption agencies, and they all hoped yesterday that the law won't be signed, but unfortunately, in the end of the day, it was signed. So today, we expect much more protests, much bigger protests in Kyiv and also in Kharkiv, Dnipro, and Lviv. So it's now mounting up. The number of people are increasing. However, everyone is abiding the law, so everyone understands that there is a curfew, and people need to return before midnight home.
Okay, so it's not developing further, but you're saying that you were surprised that he did sign the legislation, and he did it at the end of the day. President Zelensky is saying it's necessary to sign this legislation to purge the organizations of Russian influence. But do you agree with people who are concerned that this action, this new law, will undermine the authority of Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies?
If you remember, the very notion of creation of these anti-corruption bodies was specifically to pave the way for Ukraine to join European Union as a very necessary step to fight with the corruption. And if this law gives kind of a big amount of power allocated in the hands of the general prosecutor, which can overrule the decisions of these anti-corruption bodies, anti-corruption agencies, then it is a quite, it's not the right decision. It's absolutely not the right decision. So people are disappointed. Definitely, we can see the disappointment, and it's not timely. It's not the right time. And also, we understand also that the international partners, the countries within the European Union, also are not happy with this decision. So. My understanding that if the protest will continue, then the Ukrainian leadership would have to divert the decision and basically cancel the signature.
Yeah, very interesting. You think that President Zelensky might have it made clear to him that this is a really big political misstep domestically?
Domestically, yes. People, Ukrainian population was kind of closing eyes on the, there was some minor pressure on the, minor pressure, I would say, on some independent media, on the activists, and but what happened yesterday is definitely not correct, definitely not right, and I'm pretty sure that the protest will continue. I just want to say to you that I spoke to young people yesterday, and I just want to convey their message. The message is that they don't want to live in the autocracy, that they will people whose families have been protesting, have been gathering on Maidans on different revolutions, starting from Orange Revolution in 2004, 2005. And some of these young people told me, while my father is fighting on the front line, I'm here fighting for the democracy. I'm not going to I won't allow the autocratic regime to happen. And I also spoke to some other people who said that while my friends are fighting on the front line, I'm here for them. So it's not that, I just want to clarify that whatever is happening in Ukraine, the fight for democracy, the fight for European values, for democratic values, it goes in parallel together with fighting against the aggressor, against the perpetrator, such as Russian Federation. And what's more important, no matter what's happening here, no matter what's happening on the ground, the most important for the international allies, for European allies, to continue the military support, because whatever is happening here, it's very internal, but we still live under the permanent bombardment, and every time, twice or three times per week, Russia is launching missile attacks against Ukraine. So whatever is happening on the ground, it should not prevent the European allies to provide the military aid to Ukrainian people. The result that you see, the protest that you see, is actually the proof that Ukrainian population is worse joining the European Union, is worse this fight.
That was Kateryna Malofieieva, a journalist in Ukraine.